It's 5 AM and the snow settles on the streets of Lerwick. It's quiet now, but in a few hours the silence will be broken by the roars of the Vikings. Today is the last Tuesday of January, and that means it is Up Helly Aa, Europe's largest fire festival.
Hello and good morning from a snowy Shetland. We're here at 6 AM in the morning on Up Helly Aa Day. I'm Amy, I'm from the mainland of Scotland, and I'm here in Lerwick this morning to experience my first Up Helly Aa with Matthew, who is a Shetlander.
Hello and welcome to Up Helly Aa.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll be bringing you some coverage from around the festival over the next sort of 12 hours, I suppose. But I suppose before we get going, we should learn a little bit more about the history of the festival.
Yeah, let's learn a little bit more about Up Helly Aa.
Well, this is a very kind of unique year because Jim Nicholson was the Geyser Jarl in 1979, and he has 3 sons, and John now will be the third of them to all be Geyser Jarl, which is quite a unique thing to happen. And Jim, when he was Geyser Jarl, he chose to be Egil Skallagrimsson from Iceland, and who just happened to have 3 sons. So John is going to be Thorstein Egilsson, who was the 3rd son, as I said, of Egil Skallagrimsson. It was a great pleasure for me to be able to write the story this year and tell the story of Thorstein, who and his ancestors went on after him as well and became, they've got stories of their own, so we'll have to see what happens in the future. The very early history, well, of course Lerwick was a very small town, and of course there was no street lights, and I suppose in the winter months it would have been very dark, especially if there was no moon, so the young men of the town wanted to amuse themselves, and they did so by burning things and making homemade bombs and blowing things up. It was just exuberant fun, I guess. And over time that developed until you get to around about 1840s, and they're starting to make what we call tar barrels, which I understand were barrels of tar sawed in half and set ablaze, and they would cart them around the town, towing them here and there and slushing, burning tar everywhere, and it made a real mess, but they seemed to enjoy themselves doing that. And I think really the tar barrel was becoming a bit of a nuisance to the majority of the populace. So eventually in 1874 it was banned, and in 1881 we get the first torchlight procession. From then the Viking elements begin to get added on through time. We get the first galley in 1889, and we have to wait until 1906 for the first Geyser Jarl. Yeah, towards the end of the century, when Up Helly Aa is more recognisable as it is today, people are gathered into squads, and the suits are becoming more flamboyant and they are becoming more colourful. And I would say what's happening then we would recognise as being Up Helly Aa, but in the very early days, when they were burning tar barrels, they were in very basic disguises, yes. I think the idea was not to let the police know who you were, I think. When I was in primary 1, well, all the school was taken into the games hall, and you all sit on the floor and sing the Up Helly Aa song. And then the Vikings arrive, and of course you're about knee-high to a furry boot, and you're just mesmerised by this. And I think after 7 years of primary school, seeing Vikings come, it is quite, it leaves an impression on you, and I think it's very difficult not to be excited by it. Especially me being brought up in the town, what colour will the galley be, and getting excited about all these small things. So when you're a boy growing up in that environment, it becomes quite thrilling perhaps. And yeah, I think as you get older it just kind of grows with you. One of my favourite things is lighting torches, and there's something quite special about it because that very act of setting something on fire goes right back 200 years. It goes, I can almost feel as if I'm linked some way to these guys who are burning things in the lanes, you know. That we've been doing this for a long time, And that very act of standing in the streets and setting fire to things is something quite special. So seeing the galley burning at the end of the day is a very special moment. It's almost like a bucket list thing for people to do now. They have to come and see it. So, but essentially, I think what's important to say is Up Helly Aa, we don't do it for tourism, we don't do it for other people, we do it very much for ourselves. It's a festival that we do it for us, and if people want to come and see it, well, that's great, and we welcome them to come and see what we do, but we're not doing it essentially for others. We do it for ourselves, and we've been doing it for well over 100 years, so it's something very special and something that kind of runs deep in the veins somewhere.